3-year-old kid survived Montana wilderness alone for 2 days. The place he was found is a home to mountain lions and bears. For the first time in its entire history, the United States has a Native American, Native Alaskan, and Native Hawaiian serving in the House of Representatives. A Korean news program actually filming on the top of the building instead of using a green screen. The door is real. The rest is graffiti. Meet Wang Odoge, a 104-year-old tattoo artist from the Philippines. She is the only remaining traditional Kalinga tattooist. You don't take a tattoo choice to this woman. She first decides if you're worthy, and then she tattoos what she wants. For the first time in history, Australia will soon have decimal coins in circulation bearing the face of a monarch other than Queen Elizabeth II. This is because Elizabeth II has been queen for the entire time Australia has had decimal currency. Two grinning brothers, hair standing on end, unaware that they were minutes away from being struck by lightning, while climbing Morro Rock in California's Sequoia National Park. A bug's ground level view of the backyard. The world's largest family was composed of 94 children, all sired by one man called Zion Hooker, along with 39 wives. NASA's Perseverance rover has found organic matter in rock samples on Mars. Microbiological culture of an 8-year-old's handprint after playing outside. These are Fred Neil and Justin Casper. In 1999 they managed to produce a working nuclear breeder reactor in their dorm as part of the University of Chicago scavenger hunt. From scraps, they produced weapons-grade uranium and plutonium. Mount Rushmore before and after it was carved. Norilsk in Russia is considered one of the most depressing cities in the world. In 1976, the USS Stein was damaged by an unknown species of giant squid. The cuts in the ship contained claws found on a squid's tentacles. The claws were much larger than any currently known species of giant squid, estimating that the squid could have been 46 meters, 150 feet. A family posing with their 16 children, 1960. The men's urinal at the Intercontinental Hotel in Los Angeles. Charles has historically been an unlucky name for British kings. Many experts were surprised King Charles III chose to keep Charles as his regnal name. King Charles I, King Charles II, King Charles III, God save the king. King Charles I of England was beheaded by his own people. Charles II ruled during a plague in the Great Fire of London. The world now waits the reign of King Charles III. This apartment block in St. Petersburg houses over 18,000 people. Abu Tazin al-Salhi, 1953-2017. A veteran sniper in the Iraqi Popular Mobilization Forces credited with killing 384 ISIS members during the war in Iraq. His nicknames were the Sheik of Snipers and Hawkeye. How an AI imagines infinity. The Grasshopper Cafe in South Korea, made out of train cars. So I created and printed a graphic novel made with the Midjourney AI. An ear of pre-colonization era glass gem corn grown by a Cherokee farmer in Oklahoma. The soldiers, who served on the Army district of Chukchi Peninsula, didn't turn their backs on the poor and starving animals and started to feed them every now and then. A photo taken in the early 1950s during a routine military expedition to the Chukchi Peninsula. Shooting a bear does not make you a badass. Feeding a bear while her cub chugs your leg makes you badass. Snowflake was the world's only known albino gorilla to date. He was a western lowland gorilla. His fur was white, his eyes were blue and his skin was pink. He was kept at Barcelona Zoo in Barcelona, Catalonia, Spain from 1966 until his death in 2003. The Lane brothers. Winner Lane. Loser Lane. Robert Lane named his sons Winner and Loser. Winner Lane became a small-time crook, racking up over 30 arrests and a stint in state prison, while Loser Lane was a star student and athlete who became a police detective in New York City. Francesco Frank Lentini, May 18, 1889 to September 21, 1966, was a Sicilian-American sideshow performer who toured with numerous circuses. Born with a parasitic twin, Lentini had 3 legs. He became known for having 3 legs, 4 feet, and 2 sets of genitals. In 1775, 78-year-old Sam Whittemore ambushed British soldiers. He killed 3 soldiers before he was shot in the face, bayoneted numerous times, and left for dead. He recovered and lived another 18 years, dying at 96 years old. Painting is of Sam fighting off the British. The armadillo-girdled lizard is a species of lizard in the family Chordilidae, and its size can range from 7.5 to 9 centimeters, 3.0 to 3.5 inches. In Misiones, Argentina, there is a typical dessert made of wood. New York, 1942. A very old Nikola Tesla and King Peter of Yugoslavia. 9 reigning monarchs were present during King Edward VII's burial in 1910. Vasily Arkhipov avoided causing World War III after refusing his captain's orders to launch nuclear torpedoes at US. 2 of the 3 officers on board wanted to fire the missile. However, a unanimous decision was required. He refused and thus saved the world. He is truly an unsung hero. This photo composite was made by vertically merging the faces of a young girl with her maternal grandmother. The 1902 St. Pierre volcano eruption killed all 35,000 people in the town, except one man who survived because he was the worst prisoner and lived in a solitary confinement cell. Meet Steve Sasson, who built the first digital camera nearly 50 years ago. This is Steve Sasson, inventor of the first digital camera in 1975. Although his employer, Kodak, infamously failed to see the value in his invention, his work survived and evolved to the technology we all carry in our pockets today. In 2009, President Obama gave Sasson the National Medal of Technology and Innovation, the highest honor awarded by the US government to scientists, engineers, and inventors. Work in progress. Depen and India Inc. 22-year-old Dashant, that my sister cares for. Probably the last photo of a Russian soldier somewhere in Ukraine. Muhammad Ali after knocking out Cleveland Williams at the Astrodome in Houston 1966. This photo was taken by photographer Neil Leifer, with the camera being hung on a rig about 80 feet, 24 meters, above the boxing ring. India transporting rocket 1963 versus 2018. Kedarnath Temple in India, built around 1200 years ago in Himalayas. A statue in Istanbul to honor Tombili, a famous stray cat. He used to sit in this position and watch passers-by. This is the Gwangyang Steelworks in Gwangyang, South Korea, the largest facility of its kind in the world. This image is 2 miles, 3.2 kilometers, from top to bottom. Bonnie and Clyde's last kiss a few hours before they were killed. May 23, 1934. Conceptual art in 1941 for the future of air travel. 1967. Flash forward to 2022. Bats are very important pollinators in tropical and desert climates. Most flower visiting bats are found in Africa, Southeast Asia, and the Pacific Islands. The mugshot of actor Dennis Hopper, 1975. Hopper was arrested after he won some ace day in a poker game, then walked outside, pulled out a .357 Magnum and shot a tree that he mistook for a grizzly bear. Salvador Dali painting The Face of War in 1940. This is a 3,200-year-old attendance sheet found in Deir el-Medina, Egypt. Reasons for worker absence include embalming brother, brewing beer and bitten by scorpion. Tokyo from above. Tokyo is the capital of Japan and one of the biggest cities in the world. It has a population of 14 million, with a metropolitan population of almost 40 million. It is roughly 2,194 square kilometers in size, 847 square miles. 4 different tiger fur color mutations. From left to right: snow white, standard, golden and white. My LEGO Ideas Design Sewer Heroes. Fighting the Fatberg is dedicated to all professionals working in the water and wastewater industry. The project has already gained 2,000 supporters in the first 50 hours, but only by reaching 10,000 votes it will get the chance of becoming a real LEGO set. Sewer Heroes. Fighting the Fatberg. To give you an idea of just how large Saturn's hexagon storm is. I used to be a security officer at a Boeing aerospace manufacturing facility. This notebook was gifted to me by a, now late, aeronautical engineer. It contains all sorts of brainstorming that went into flight technology. Today I learned the world record grizzly bear was taken by a First Nations grandmother armed with a single shot .22 rifle. 1815 eruption of Mount Tambora, the most powerful volcanic eruption in recorded human history. Men's hairstyles during 1970s. When crowing, a rooster's beaks fully open and their external auditory canals completely close off. So basically, roosters have built-in earplugs when they annoy everyone at 5 AM. During the 1950s, Las Vegas added atomic bomb detonations as the many attractions Vegas had to offer and promoted itself as Atomic City. They even issued a calendar for tourists with times and the best places to view them. Over 12 years there was an average of 1 bomb detonated every 3 weeks. Naples, Italy was the only part of Italy that fought and did not allow the Knees to occupy. This mountain with the underground bunker the residents hid in is still there. Raising anchor of your oil tanker, only to realize you've hooked an unexploded torpedo. In Tron Legacy Quora, a computer program mentions to Sam that she rarely beats Kevin Flynn at their strategy board game. This game is actually Go, a game that is notoriously difficult for computer programs to play well. Lucky Knot Bridge, Changsha, China. There was a cult that worshipped the coconut started by a German nudist in the early 1900s. Adherents only ate coconut and many died of malnutrition. Known as chimera cats, these special felines have an unforgettable characteristic. Each half of their face is completely a different color, including their eyes. My Amish neighbor hauling his boat. When the Jason Voorhees statue was at the bottom of the lake in Minnesota, USA. A small piece of British soil in North Carolina. In May 1942, a German submarine hit the HMT Bedfordshire with a torpedo off the coast of Ocracoke Island, North Carolina. Americans buried the 4 men on the island, since there wasn't money to ship them back to England. This is leased to the Commonwealth War Graves Commission. Congo Gumi is the oldest operating business in the world, established in 578. It specializes in the construction of temples and shrines. Actress Linda Christian kisses Alfonso Di Portago at a stop during the Mille Miglia race. Moments later, Portago was dismembered in a crash which also killed 8 others. It's popularly called the Kiss of Death 1957. Photographer unknown. Wilhelm Hossenfeld was a German officer during World War II who, while in Warsaw, Poland, sheltered a Jewish pianist named Władysław Spillman in a ruined house. Hossenfeld died in Russian captivity, but was recognized as righteous among the nations in Yad Vashem. Walkman, cassette player, advertisement in the 1980s, but how they sell the products never change. View of the pyramids during a solar eclipse. August 30th, 1905. Photo, Gabriel Lekijan. Lyle and Eric Menendez murdered both of their parents on August 20th, 1989. They weren't considered suspects at first and inherited millions of dollars. They went on a lavish spending spree buying courtside seats to NBA games. A 1990 to 1991 hoops card once considered junk now considered a collectible. Took some pics of a lightning storm passing in the distance. Mabini, Philippines. J1407b aka Lord of the Rings, a planet that has massive beautiful rings. Hospital cigarettes back in the 1950s. Abandoned hotel on the edge of a lake in Italy. UV light machine in hospital to sanitize the whole room. This watermelon my sister grew, CAD for scale. What 5 MB of data on punch cards looked like in 1966. I worked in a theater showing film movies up until 2007. We upgraded our projection equipment to read the Dolby Digital info between the teeth holes that feed the film. Film flies by at 24 frames per second, and there are 425 codes that are read in that time, then translated to sound. The thick ice layer covering this Swiss mountain pass for at least 2000 years is melting away. The first electric battery, Volta XL, submitted to the Royal Society of London in 1800 by Alessandro Volta. He called it a battery because it functioned like a group of cannons firing together. Neither I nor anyone else will be interested in the musings of a 13-year-old schoolgirl. Pages from Anne Frank's diary, which has sold 30 million copies, on display at the Anne Frank House in Amsterdam. Depiction of a child that lived in Borneo 31,000 years ago had its left foot amputated and survived for up to nearly a decade. It is the oldest incidence of surgical limb amputation and predates the previous record by an astonishing 24,000 years. Amazing colors of jumping spider. Alain Robert, a Frenchman known for climbing skyscrapers, is met by police near the roof of the New York Times building. Watuk was an orphan bear cub who was bought by Lieutenant Anatol Tarnowski. He was later donated to 22nd Artillery Supply Company, Poland. He was enlisted into the Polish Army as a private. He had his own paybook, rank, and serial number. Post-war he moved to Edinburgh Zoo. In 1896, workers used a 65-foot extension ladder as they attempted to eradicate moth larvae from a large elm tree in Malden, Massachusetts. Someone built an android after sci-fi author Philip K. Nutt, who was notoriously paranoid of technology. Its head was lost in a plane and never seen again. Somewhere in the world, someone has a Philip K. Nutt robot head boxed up in their garage. Sun shines on the Washington Monument. After a period of 75 years, cheetahs will once again roam in India. 8 African cheetahs are being shifted from Namibia to Kuno National Park, India. The last 3 Indian cheetahs were hunted down by a local king in 1947. A special flight is being operated for the mission. Nadwer is probably the only person in history to have met and interviewed Kurt Cobain, Snoop Dogg, and Mikhail Gorbachev amongst many others. An unused 90s Sega Master System 2. US cavalry soldiers pose in front of a tree known as the Grizzly Giant 1900 and is a giant sequoia in Yosemite National Park's Mariposa Grove. It was measured in 1990 by Wendell Flint. He figured a volume of 34,005 cubic feet, which makes it the 26th largest living giant sequoia. Triops, a 200 million year old freshwater crustacean species aka living fossils. The cedars of Lebanon. The Phoenicians, Israelites, Egyptians, Assyrians, Babylonians, Persians, Romans, Arabs, and Turks use Lebanese cedars. The oldest cedar, second photo, is almost 3,000 years old, and without doubt it stood there in the days of King Solomon and his friend King Hiram of Tyre. Kevin Hart, Shaq, and Yao Ming compared to the tallest man ever lived. Ladder in the woods that led into an underground tunnel system with a few things living in it. I created this composite photo of the moon with my 4-inch telescope and my Samsung Galaxy M21 smartphone. I found a yellow flower with a yellow spider inside eating a bee.